Welcome to Le Circuit Mont Tremblant, Quebec, and round number 8 of the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series, the championship final. Hello everybody, I'm Joe Tilley. This is the final event of the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series. With me is Pat Gonzalez, and Pat, today is payday for our drivers.
Well, Joe, part of that $1.3 million that's awarded to the drivers over the next 3 years will be divided at the end of this race. But more importantly, we've got that championship that's on the line, and that's what everybody is going to be looking for. Which of those two drivers that are up there at the top of the point standings are going to win the championship here today?
The championship boils down to this 15-lap race, and the driver with the best opportunity to win it is Scott Goodyear. He has 163 points after 2 victories in Mosport and a win at Niagara Falls. I asked Scott what this championship means to him.
Well, I'm pleased that we have a shot at the championship this year because it's the only year that we ran all the races and had a legitimate chance to try and do this. And it's an opportunity that I've been trying to get for the last couple of years, and I want to take this, win with this, and then hopefully we can do a little bit of this next year if we have the opportunity, but I certainly like to get back into the single-seater cars too. So it works as a stepping stone. I think the Rothmans Porsche people have put together a great program, and everybody's watching it around the world, which means a lot.
The weather could play an important factor as to who wins the race here, Joe. It started to rain, it's heavily overcast, and it looks like the race will in fact be run in the wet. The closest rival to Scott Goodyear, of course, is Richard Spinard, the 34-year-old veteran from Shannonville, won race number 3 here at Mont Tremblant. He was the winner of our last race at Mosport Park. He has 149 championship points, just 14 back of Scott Goodyear. And I asked Richard about his chances for the championship.
Well, I think I have good chances to win the race, but the chances to win the championship are quite slim. Even though I could win the race, Scott Goodyear has to finish worse than 13 today. Mainly because I didn't finish one race and Scott had the luck of finishing every races in the championship. So therefore my chances are quite slim actually.
So those are the 2 championship hopefuls, Scott Goodyear and Richard Spinard.
And the man who could throw a monkey wrench into all of this is David Tennyson, our pole sitter here today. Tennyson is a young rookie, an up-and-comer. He's improved with every race, and he looks pretty good out there.
Scott Goodyear, Richard Spinard, and David Tennyson, 3 drivers who will figure prominently in the championship battle. Richard Spinard has had his problems staying up with Scott Goodyear, especially for the first couple of races this year. But he has made some dramatic progress that culminated at the last race at Mosport with a new qualifying record and a win over his nemesis Goodyear. Scott started in 7th spot on the grid and worked his way past Nirop, Villeneuve, and Prue to challenge Spinard in the closing laps. But unlike the first race at Mosport, all attempts by Scott Goodyear to take the lead from Spinard were turned aside. And it was Richard Spinard who crossed the finish line first, taking the win and the 25 Rothmans Porsche championship points.
As we mentioned, it's been a very exciting first 7 races with a variety of winners. Last time we were at this track, Jacques Villeneuve, his first time in a car in 2 years, hopped in there and won this race. Unfortunately, Jacques does not have a ride this weekend. David Deacon is driving his own car.
Well, Joe, you know there's a lot that can happen in 15 laps. The rain will be a factor, and other drivers who've run up at the front all year long, like Rick Bai and Richard Laporte, Jacques Bienvenu, who will be very good on this racetrack, especially in the wet. Those drivers could play an important factor as to who wins the race and also who walks away from Tremblant with the championship.
Okay, the drivers and crews are getting organized for the rain. We'll be back with the final event of the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup right after this. Welcome back to the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup. We're at the grid. The drivers are in their cars. You can feel the tension in the air. Scott Goodyear and Richard Spinard are ready to decide the championship. Pat?
And as we said in the opening, it's those 2 drivers who will duel it out on this very wet racetrack for the 1988 Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup laurels. Here's the starting grid with 19-year-old David Tennyson taking the pole position in a brilliant qualifying run yesterday. Beside him will be Richard Spinard. In row number 2, Jacques Bienvenu in the Dicom Porsche, and outside will be Stéphane Prue in the Motomaster Downtown Fine Cars Porsche. The points leader, Scott Goodyear, will start inside of row 3, and on the outside, 1986 champion Case Nirop. In the 4th row, it'll be Rick Bai and Cam Champion. The 5th row, Richard Laporte and Norman Boyer. The 6th row, Jacques Lilliave and Ludwig Heimrath. The 7th row, David Deacon and Brian Malcolm. In the 8th row, Pierre Desmarais and Chris Gleason. The 9th row, David Seabrook and Zav Aberman. The 10th row, Claude Gu and Larry Caruso. In the 11th row, Ted Powell and Len Campbell. In the 12th row, Dirk Homan.
And a tough break for Holman, the rookie. He didn't get here in time to qualify, so he starts at the back of the pack.
Drivers coming up to the starter's stand looking for the green flag. It is out. Tennyson and Spinard side by side into turn one. Spinard up to the outside will move around Tennyson, the pole sitter, to take the lead. And you're with David Tennyson as he runs back in that second place position. Up to the outside, Stefan Prue looked as though he was going to try to make a move around Tennyson, but could not make the pass. And it is Bienvenu who slides through on the inside into third. Spinard leading, Tennyson, the pole sitter, in second. Bienvenu is third. And back and forth, Stefan Prue.
Richard Spinard, to win this championship, has to finish first here today, and it didn't take him long to get into the lead. After the first corner, he's already out in front of David Tennyson, and he's widening that gap.
Richard Spinard trying to take care of the first half of the equation that would give him the championship. He has to win this race and hope that Scott Goodyear finishes no better than 14th. Of course, for Goodyear to win the championship, he needs to finish 13th or better, and right now Scott running back in that 6th place position. Second place battle really heating up. It is Tennyson holding on to second, but Bienvenu is all over him, followed by Prue, then it's Case Nierop, and then Scott Goodyear. Spinard over the crest of the hill, off the end of the back straightaway here at Mont Tremblant. Tennyson trying to hold on a second, but here's Bienvenu to the inside. Bienvenu tried the move. Tennyson will hold on to that second place position, and Tennyson appears to be holding up both Bienvenu and 65 Stefan Prue along with Case Nierop. In the meantime, Spinard continues to open up his gap on the second, third, fourth, and fifth place cars. There's Tennyson, followed by Bienvenu, Prue, and now it is Case Nierop who's making a charge. Nierop pulls up alongside there of Stefan Prue, could not get around. Then it is Scott Goodyear with Rick By right behind him in the 7th place position. Into Namuro, Richard Spinard continues to sprint away from the rest of the field, and Spinard is really pushing the traction on those Pirelli P0s, and there's Case Nierop around Stefan Prue into the 4th place position. So it is Case Nierop who is the driver on the move. He's picked off one position up alongside of number 89, Jacques Bienvenu. Case Nierop in a third. Nierop going around both Prue and Bienvenu in just a few corners. And now he sets his sights on David Tennyson. Nierop to the inside of Tennyson. He has moved in a second. What a charge by Case Nierop.
Tennyson is the less experienced of these leaders here, and now there goes Bienvenu is by Tennyson as well, and Stefan Prue. Tennyson went a little wide and it cost him 2 positions.
Tennyson qualified in the dry and appears to be having problems with the wet racetrack. Spinard continues to just motor away from the rest of the field. Richard Spinard certainly doing what he has to do here today. He's got to hope that Scott Goodyear somehow does not finish up in one of those top 13 spots. Otherwise, Scotty would have the championship regardless of what Richard does. And you're on board the current points leader, Scott Goodyear, as he drives a calculated race. There is Prue with Bienvenu all over him for that 3rd place position. Then a bit of a gap back to Tennyson, who runs in 5th. Spinard, the leader, off the end of the back straightaway. Case Nierop appears to be closing on him as Nierop continues a tremendous charge up through the field, and you're on board with Jacques Bienvenu as he runs in these very, very tough conditions. There you can see Bienvenu, visibility still a problem. Spinard, the leader, uphill into Namuro, followed by Case Nierop in 2nd. Then it is Prue, the new 3rd place driver, followed by 89 Bienvenu. And then back in 5th, it is still David Tennyson and then Scott Goodyear.
David was nervous just before the start. I don't think he was looking forward to those 22 hungry drivers chasing a CS Yachts Porsche. I asked him what he anticipated at the start.
I think there's going to be a lot of pressure, and I think there's going to be a big charge on the first lap. And my main goal is to stay out of trouble and to drive a clean race.
Rick By is making his big charge as he closes on David Tennyson. Tennyson drifts a little bit wide. It is Rick By to the inside. He'll pick off that 5th place position. So not a good run here so far for David Tennyson. Although he qualified well, he has now been pushed back into that 6th place position, just ahead of Scott Goodyear, who runs in 7th, but some very close racing among those drivers. It is still Richard Spinard leading, Case Nierop in 2nd. There's the 3rd place driver, Prue, followed by 89 Bienvenu. Then number 8, Rick By, followed by David Tennyson. And there is Laporte as he moves to the inside of Scott Goodyear, but Goodyear will hold on to the 7th place position.
And there's a disappointed Dirk Holman of Calgary. He's obviously going to park that Porsche. He had a monumental crash at Mosport last race, and I don't think that his crew really had enough time to put it together properly. There are the standings. Richard Spinard followed by Nira, Prue, Bienvenue, Rick Bai in 5th. Then it's David Tennyson, Scott Goodyear, Richard Laporte, Cam Champion, and Jacques Liliev in 10th.
Goodyear and Laporte are really going at each other. Laporte back in that 8th place position is all over Goodyear, and remember, Scott has got to finish at least 13th to win the championship. Tennyson side by side there as again Laporte to the inside of Goodyear into turn 1, and Scott will hold his position. But Laporte is all over Goodyear, and Scott pushing very hard to stay in that 7th place position as Tennyson now comes under fire from both Goodyear and Laporte. Some ferocious action further back from the leader Spinard, and that is Cam Champion, who has also moved up into the thick of it there. Tennyson, Goodyear, Laporte, and Champion, those 4 drivers tied together in a ferocious battle, and just ahead of them Rick Bai, who runs in the 5th place position.
And we've had a change here, Pat. That's Norman Boyer up into 9th now, and I don't see Cam Champion anywhere.
We have a report that Champion has run off the racetrack but has continued losing a couple of positions. There is your leader Spinard as he continues to run well out in front, but Case Nierop is closing.
And there's Champion now in 12th, just ahead of Gleason and Deacon, the originator of the series back in '86. I asked David if racing in the rain made a difference for him.
Well, actually, I'm quite happy that it's raining today because I really hope to qualify a little higher. And I've been away for a month, so not having been out for a little bit, I felt a little rusty. Going out in the rain means that I'm a little more equal footing because nobody else has been driving in the rain since Shannonville either, and I finished, 7th there. So, yeah, I think I'll make some progress.
And there's a driver making a lot of progress. The leader, Richard Spinard, will be back with more of the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series from Mont Tremblant after this. Welcome back to the final race of the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series from Mont Tremblant in the Laurentians, as these dedicated race fans watch Richard Spinard attempt to carve out his 3rd win of the series and hopefully wrestle the championship away from Scott Goodyear, who has a 14-point lead.
With that big point lead that Goodyear has, he can afford to drive conservatively, and here's Richard Laporte. He's off the racetrack. Laporte doing a nice job of gathering it back up and will continue, but Goodyear has moved around into the 7th place position. Just ahead of him, you can see the spray coming off the car of David Tennyson. So Scott Goodyear moves back into that 7th place position, and remember again, he can finish as far back as 13th and still win the championship. So Scott can afford to drive conservatively, although he's been right in the thick of it there with Laporte and Tennyson for several laps now.
And of course, while Goodyear tries to secure the championship, the rest of these drivers are trying to finish as high as they can, therefore finishing with more points and dipping deeper into that prize fund pool.
Number 5, Richard Laporte, chasing down Scott Goodyear once again. Laporte back in that 8th place position. At the end of the back straightaway, Bienvenue followed by Tennyson. Then it is Scott Goodyear, Richard Laporte, and a pretty good battle there between the 2 red Porsches. That's Norman Boyer and Jacques Liliev. There is the man who has the championship in his own hands. He knows he doesn't have to win it. He can finish all the way back in 13th and still take the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Championship here at Mont Tremblant.
David Tennyson has settled down and is now driving his race instead of being intimidated by the front runners. He's obviously going to be one of the stars of the future in this series that will run for 2 more years with the same cars and a total purse of over $1.3 million. Along with that, the top 6 finishers in each race will earn points toward the Porsche North America Cup and its annual prize fund of some $200,000.
There is number 36, Zav Averman, right behind him, 17, David Seabrook. And if you've been following our series, you'll remember the incident at Mosport during the last race where David accused Zav of crowding him off the racetrack in corner 10. Just to go back to that prize fund, there are also contingency awards from Shell Canada and Pirelli going to the Crew Chief of the Year and the Sportsman of the Year, so it's an important afternoon for all of the teams. There are the standings. It is Tennyson, the pole sitter, back in 6th right now. Goodyear, Laporte, Boyer, and Liliev rounding out the top 10.
But right now, it's Richard Spinard looking for his 3rd victory of the series. And there you can see Scott Goodyear. He's waving Richard Laporte by. Goodyear does not want to get involved in any confrontations that might jeopardize the championship.
Scott Goodyear settling into that 8th place position just behind Richard Laporte. There you can see visibility still a problem. Goodyear for the moment content with that 8th place position. There is crew chief Dennis Ryder in constant communication with his driver Scott Goodyear. The 3rd place, number 65 Porsche of Stefan Prue, followed by Bienvenu. Then it is Rick By in the Reebok Porsche. And number 19, David Tennyson, who surprised everybody by qualifying on the pole earlier this weekend. You're on board Rick By's Reebok Porsche as he runs in that 5th place position. You can see the windshield wipers that have been on here since the start of the race. A light rain still falling at Mont Tremblant, and the drivers have done remarkably well on this very wet and slick racetrack. Credit to those Pirelli P0 tires that have certainly been equal to the task here this afternoon. Spinard pushing his car right to the limit. He continues to run at torrid pace.
And the 2nd place man, Case Nierop, is closing on Spinard. Pat, he's driving very aggressively in this race. I asked Case earlier if running in the wet bothered him.
I don't mind the rain. The Pirelli tires, the rain tires, are excellent tires in the rain. So I think it's going to be a comfortable, fast run for us. And hopefully, if we can pull it off, we'll win the race today at least and make up for some of the year.
Case Nierop turning in his best performance of the series here this afternoon at Mont Tremblant. There's Tennyson going through. Richard Laporte all by himself in 7th. And here is the current points leader, Scott Goodyear, back in that 8th place position. But he has a couple more hungry drivers looking to pick up another position. That's Norman Boyer and Jacques Liliev in the 2 red Porsches. Back with the leader, Richard Spinard in the number 1 downtown Fine Cars Motormaster Porsche as he continues to lead a determined Case Nierop. And what a marvelous charge to the front Nierop has made here this afternoon. They're coming up to lap number 35. They're Ted Powell in the Fujifilm Porsche. The 3rd place driver, Stefan Prue, followed by 89 Jacques Bienvenu, and then Rick By.
And you can see Richard Laporte applying his brakes with the anti-lock braking system. You can see the car staying under control under those hard braking conditions.
Scott Goodyear is in control of this championship right now as he runs back in that 8th place position, despite the fact that Richard Spinard continues to lead. Stefan Prue going through in 3rd, then it is Bienvenu, Rick By, followed by David Tennyson, and despite the fact that he has dropped back from that pole position, David Tennyson has had a strong run here this afternoon at Mont Tremblant. When you think that he hasn't had a lot of experience racing on a wet racetrack, very difficult conditions here for the young David Tennyson as he sits back in that 6th place position.
We're with Jacques Bienvenu. He seems to be having his problems hitting the apexes of some of the corners. However, as he told me earlier, he's always looking for the traction areas on this race course.
This track is very, very abrasive. This means even if you use the same line, it's maybe no problem except than the Namro here, where the cars are going very, very slow, and they lose some time, oil a little bit, and we have to change the line.
Well, Jacques Bienvenu has been on the right line most of the afternoon. He runs back and forth. There is Case Nierop on 3 wheels as he is really charging after Spinard. And here's Larry Caruso off the racetrack into the tire walls. Caruso definitely got on the wrong line there. He will continue, but just where Jacques Bienvenu was referring to the very difficult Namaro. We'll be back with more of this championship race from Mont Tremblant after this.
Welcome back to Le Circuit Mont Tremblant, Quebec. I'm Joe Tilley with Pat Gonzalez for the concluding lap of this 8th race in the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series.
Off the end of the back straightaway, Richard Spinard, who has led since the opening lap, holding off a determined Case Nierop, and there's Norman Boyer. He has moved into 8th, pushing Scott Goodyear back to 9th, but 9th would still give Goodyear the championship. And Goodyear battles back. He pulls up alongside of Boyer as they head up the back straightaway.
Goodyear certainly doesn't need to pass Boyer here, but here's his competitive edge kicking in. He wants to finish as high as he can now.
At the end of that back straightaway, Goodyear has muscled his way back into that 8th place position. Boyer runs 9th, and Liliev is back in the 10th place spot. Just a few corners to go for Scott Goodyear, and here is Case Nierop up to the outside of Spinard in a Namaro, but Spinard will hold him off. This has been a marvelous run for Case Nierop. As they come out of the final turn, the checkered flag will be out. Spinard will hold on for the win. Nierop will finish in 2nd.
But a great run for Nierop, who started 6th on the grid, worked all the way up to 2nd, and almost caught Spinard.
There is Stefan Prue, checkered flag for 3rd. It'll be Jacques Bienvenu 4th, Rick By 5th, and David Tennyson in 6th. 7th will go to Richard Laporte. Here is Scott Goodyear back in that 8th place position as they run it out of Namuro. Goodyear just one corner away from the championship. Scott Goodyear brings the Pop 84 Porsche across the line. Checkered flag. He will finish 8th in the championship.
And an ecstatic Pop 84 Pfaff Capricorn Racing team as they celebrate their 1988 championship.
There are the results of today's 8th and final race in our series. Bernard, Nirop, Prue, Bienvenu, and Bai, your top 5. David Tennyson, Laporte, Goodyear, Boyer, and Liliev. And here's a very happy champion, Scott Goodyear.
It's just a case of staying on the track. I knew our positioning, and I really just wanted to make sure that the whole year that we spent with the Pop 84 Pfaff crew came out for a championship. So there's no sense in winning the battle today if we didn't win the war. So we really won the war.
Et en première position, in first place, Richard Spenard.
That's Richard's 3rd win, 2 here at Mont Tremblant and 1 at Mosport as Joe Pace from Rothmans and Fred Doobie of Porsche Canada present the winner's trophy to the Shannonville, Ontario resident.
And there is the 1988 Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup champion Scott Goodyear, who through consistent finishes and strong support from his sponsors and crew, especially Frank the Ponzi, Dennis and Jason Ryder, Bill Metcalf, Franzel Quaker, receives the trophy from series director Jack Christie.
And Scott hands the trophy over to his sponsors, Hans Pfaff from Pfaff Motors and Joseph Manzoli from Pop 84. It's not a solo effort that secures a championship, but drivers, sponsors, and crews working in concert.
Well, Joe, as we went to Mosport for that first race, it would come down to this final event here at Tremblant. It was a great race. Scott Goodyear did what he had to do, is that finish where he had to win the championship. A great season for Goodyear, but next year I think things will be even a whole lot tougher, and Scott will really have his work cut out for him, winning a 2nd championship. It's really been a great season, Joe.
We better get out of here before we get wet. For Pat Gonzalez, I'm Joe Tilley. Good afternoon.